Yo, we back here. Season 5 time of Snowfall, and I'm Jen Lucas, and we're here to provide you the official recap each and every week of Snowfall. And tonight there's 2 episodes. So yes, there's going to be a review for episode 1, then jump over to episode 2. That way you can check out that one as well. We decided to just split it up to make it easier for you all. But you know how Snowfall does, just like the previous seasons. The premiere of the season, they always drop 2 episodes back to back. I think last season, it wasn't even last year, but last season we put the 2 of them together, but we decided we'll just split it up. So yeah, we're going to be covering episode 1, Comets. Now, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you all. This was a slow episode, so we'll see what happens next episode as far as much as the action. But this one did really lay the table down in terms of where they're currently at. It's about 1986, so we'll say season 4 was early 80s, and now we're going late 80s. And what's really important about this is that for a 10-year span, a lot of things happen, a lot of big monumental things, both in the drug game, both in society and the world, that you can't really tell a season for this entire thing. So here we go again. I wonder how deep we're going to go into it. You think they'll just coast this out until the 90s and then,
that's a good question, because eventually I would almost say for a show like Snowfall, you have to end going into the 90s. Because that's when the transition happened. Well, this episode focuses on the big transition in the war on drugs. So that's why it starts off with Len Bias dying after the draft. Yeah. Because that's when drug laws changed and became absolutely ridiculous. So, I don't know how much longer this can go on and be compelling. Yeah. Because well, I'm not going to say we know what the 90s are, because it literally is people who were born in 2000. I don't know how you people exist. But for people who were born in the 80s and grew up in the 80s to the 90s, we know the transition had happened for coke and crack during that time period. That would make Snowfall not as prevalent or not as relevant as it is in the 80s. So I'm thinking maybe 2 more years. Maybe 2 more years of Snowfall. Because once you get into that early 90s period, 2
more years of it being on, or 2 more years of the time span? Because we're 86 now, so you said 89 is where you think they'll cap it?
I think 92 is where
I think that's what I was thinking too.
Hey, I would want to end it around 92. That's the pinnacle of ending it with, crack didn't stop in that time period. But at that point, as it's brought up in this first episode, when they're like, you know what, everything is being flooded now, because that's what happened. Granted, we got some very great fictional storytelling that Franklin started crack, but beyond that, now the market is we're in the mid to late 80s. The market is about to get extremely flooded, where people stop caring about the quality of it and the quantity mattered more than anything else.
Yeah. We're about both of us. We're about 5 minutes away from University of Maryland. So opening up this episode with the Len Bias overdose definitely hit home. That was a very it's a lot of what ifs with him as an athlete, but we all know the story all well too much from this area, and it's still very much around. You can't even go around the campus without somebody either mentioning something about him, mentioning about where he used to be, what he used to do. It's just starting off there, and I think it's important, not only because of just the relationship factor for us being in this area, but also because, like you said, everything changed when this high-profile athlete died of an overdose of cocaine, and
he died of cocaine, and they blamed crack for it.
Yeah,
which is very weird. But this is, again, this is important, because this is the time where the drug laws that everyone complains about now, that everyone is trying to reverse, this is when they went into effect and start giving out mandatory sentences for 5 grams of crack. Granted, Len died of cocaine, but they did not care at that time. So I think it was awesome to start the episode off with Len Bias, because I think this is now showing where their business has to transition to. Because when these laws came down, it wasn't no more you get pinched with a little bit and you be good, or you get a lawyer to get you out. it became mandatory sentencing for everything that you did.
Yeah.
And Nancy Reagan on television, and then Dare was created. I mean, it's just a bunch of stuff that happened around this time.
Yeah. It's sad to say, but like things like this make so many other things so much more profitable when these new programs come out and then grants are given and all sorts of different things like Dare. What did that ever do for anybody? But hey,
hey, great t-shirts. Great t-shirts. But back in my youth, I used to dabble in a certain market while wearing their attire. It was very interesting. But it never made me say, you know what I shouldn't be doing? Never popped into my head, Jeff.
Somebody made a lot of money off of that design too.
Hey, that design
that
is
font
iconic,
and everything,
Joe.
Oh man. So with that being said, yeah, so we know, like, you know, different new laws on the way and whatnot. But the biggest thing is, as you said, now the market is oversaturated, so everybody's looking for the best deal, not the best quality, which now brings us back to the family. Now we can say that we left off on season 4 with the family being kind of disgruntled. We didn't kind of know where everyone was going. I mean, Alton, we never knew what actually happened with him, but that we'll talk about that at some point whenever we get to that point, because we still don't know just yet what's up with Teddy and Alton in terms of how it concluded.
Yeah.
But everything has changed, because not only beyond that, we see the family back functional. Everyone's happy. Everyone's back in the business is the other thing. But as we know, money ain't adding up the way it should be adding up now, because some people trying to keep it the same, some people looking for the best deal. But at the either day, I think, and I think is the best line of the entire episode, is nothing tears a family apart like money. And yes, we know, because we just got 4 seasons of that.
of money being the main factor of tearing the family apart.
That's right. The moment somebody's like, I'm out, they was like, no, because the cash flow moves different. It's not even like a person moves out and there's more money for everybody. It's like, no, everything messes up. And that's why I say this episode was a lot of this laying the table down, because we had to get reintroduced to the characters again, just in case you didn't know. You know about the territories, you know about everyone's morale, you know about everybody's partnership, and everybody's playing happy again. And you can even go back to in terms of why is his name slipping out of my head now? Curly hair. Leon, thank you.
No. You talking about Uncle Jerome or Leon?
No, Leon. Yes, you're right. I forgot about Uncle Jerome. But Leon, you can even see at one point he was ready to get out the game, but
sure was.
He's back in there and he's still running shop, and he doesn't seem equally as enthused. I mean, he was a hard read this episode, but again, you can just tell that everybody is still pretty much, and that's why Franklin's like tooting around the way he is, because everything's good. As we saw in the conclusion of last season, where he was kind of like sweating bullets, like, oh, where do I go? But he done ditched his old girls, shall I say, got a new girl, a new character has been introduced, and let me make sure I get her name correct here. Veronique. I think that's how you say it.
Oh,
what is called V.
That is definitely an 80s name. Veronique?
Yeah, Veronique. Yeah, Vero or V, whatever it is, but Veronique is his new love interest. She works in real estate, which is perfect.
And she's a lawyer.
She's a lawyer. Went through law school, and she's pregnant is another thing. And this kind of, wildly enough, I don't think nobody gonna say this, but I'm gonna say it. Franklin's a mama's boy. We know that.
Yes, he is.
So look at the woman that he's dating. Exactly
just like his mama.
Want to get out the game, want to keep the family together, say, look, that's cool, I know what you're doing, but you got to get out, baby. We gotta raise a family, and you gotta protect it by any means. Much like his mama said, we gotta protect the family. We got to get out of here. And real estate was the answer at one point, and he kind of like, nah, I'm never leaving this. Now it's back on the table. Oh boy, this guy, frankly, man, he's gonna learn one way or another. But yeah, she is his new love interest, and we're gonna kind of see how that plays. But it is important to know that she is a reoccurring actor, so we will see her throughout throughout the season. She is aware of the family stuff, and
which is so weird. Why are they so willy-nilly telling everybody that we sell drugs? Like, this thing about Snowfall, everybody knows who sell drugs. Everybody. We got the huge storyline of this episode about someone knowing about the business that had no business knowing about the business. man, they are free-willing information here, Jeff.
Yeah. Speaking of that, talking about his mom, he said he does still talk to her here and there. So I'll just bring that up right now.
Because that's going to be highly important, because I'm assuming. And here's the thing, people. While they're showing episodes 1 and 2 back to back, we did not watch them back to back.
Yeah.
So we don't know necessarily what's going to happen in episode 2, but I'm almost sure that we're going to touch on Sissy and them in episode 2.
Yeah. Now we got our wish bright and early in this episode, because Franklin had a party to attend, but he wasn't going alone because he was going with our homegirls, Black Diamond and Dallas. We got a chance to talk to Christine Horn, who is fantastic. We said we needed more of them.
Exactly, and she was keeping it very coy. not saying anything, even though we constantly say, man, y'all got to be in the next season. And she said, very tight-lipped about it. But it was great to see them.
Yeah, she's the book and magnet. And hey, whether she knew then or she didn't, she hustles, and here we are. So, you know, and I gotta, you know, tip my hat to her, because she constantly has work. You can't even look at any series without seeing her at some extent, either as a full-time character or doing some cameos. She's everywhere. So to a point, I'm excited, but the other part of me is like, I ain't surprised.
Exactly. As the kids would say it, she's booked and busy. So yeah, she's on everything you would say. But that's what's supposed to happen. It was great to see those characters integrated this way at the beginning of the episode, of kind of being Franklin's muscle. Yeah, that's right. So you got muscle, obviously, with Peaches, but he also got them as well too, and everyone's playing their parts. It is important, you know, in terms of them going to this party to work out the deal with the Connect and essentially making sure the numbers add up. They wanted 1,000 per key. That wasn't floating, but you know, we'll come back to this. 1,000 off.
Yeah, 1,000 off per key. Yeah, 1,000. Yeah,
if you can get it, Nick, I would sell drugs again.
Yeah, because the math would have been mathing for real.
Hey, all the way. Yeah, but to go in and actually say that we want 1,000 off per key, again, because of the market being flooded, needing that 1,000 off per key to become competitive again. Because as Franklin said, the alternative is very simple here. We're left with way too much product and not a way to move it. Yeah. So, we'll come back to that, but it is important that Black Diamond did stay around. And I'm not sure what that's about, but I got the intentions that's essentially Franklin keeping tabs on all bases. And one other thing too to really bring up, please pay attention to when they had that conversation about it being flooded and Franklin saying all of a sudden the southern border is wide open. That's important, because that's something that if you know anything about the 80s and any about the drug trade in the 80s, when that shit started blowing up and people were wondering, how did it start blowing up? And people were saying, well, maybe it's because the U.S. started letting drugs in. Everything now comes almost through the south border. So I thought okay. So because for a minute I didn't put it together, but now I know. So when you think about this too, for all our Narcos fans here, it is another indication as to what's happening in terms of everything in the world. Because there you go. Colombia was the connect, but Colombia obviously isn't running shop because the DEA and what's his name had already went down there and started causing some friction. Therefore, some big names started popping up down in Mexico. Yep. Down in Tijuana. When you say the South. and then now we get the southern border being a problem for the U.S. government because too many drugs are coming through it. And only a problem because it's messing up the U.S. government moving their drugs. But I thought that, hey, you got to pay attention because we are in the 80s. When they say things like the southern borders opened up, we know what that means and we know whose drug flows through that border. That's a slick move by Snowfall to bring in a completely different element of a problem. Maybe that's what they got to kind of do is kind of go back down, stay, you know, because I don't think at some point they're going to have to keep pushing forward in time. Maybe they're going to have to do different vantage points or something to actually keep the series alive. I don't know, but I mean, we'll talk about it more as we get through the season, but it could be interesting because there's been a lot of nods towards like other things happening in the world. I mean, for one thing, I thought we might have been down in Little Rock a little bit, but
well, everyone's back here now. So because Jerome was a little adamant about saying we can do some things there,
Yeah, hey, and Little Rock is highly important for the early 90s because of who comes from that area. But like right now, we're in this is the Reagan era right now. I want to say yes, we're the last part of the Reagan era actually here.
Yeah,
last couple of years. So this is a very pivotal moment for the drug trade. Yep, not before Bush Sr. took over. This is right before Bush. He took over in '88.
Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah,
at the end of the Reagan presidency, which is when the war on drugs ramped the hell up by a lot. Yeah, and then Contra and all that other stuff. I mean, if you into drugs, if you're into Narcos, all those other shows, you know how pivotal this time. Cocaine Cowboys, you know how pivotal this time period is.
Actually, what's is a really interesting tidbit here is that if you actually go back and watch the last season of Narcos that just came out like a couple of months ago, it actually is within the same timeline because once that little incident happened at the airport with the I don't want to say he was a priest, but he was some highly big church official. Once that happened, that's when Reagan was like, "Look, shut the shit down. Like this is getting out of hand now." So like, yeah, it's pretty much now on the same timeline. But yeah. But going back to Snowfall again, 86 is a lot of things happening as we got nods towards Haley's Comet. What else did he bring? Oh, then the limb bias thing. I think also in this year's when Oprah show first came on. I'm sure they're going to mention that at some point. The first time Oprah went nationwide for the first time.
It would have been a big moment for Black folks at that time period.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be a bunch of these little things happening.
I mean, you again, when you're playing in this period of the 80s, it's a lot of things you can bring up.
Yeah,
that are gonna be very prevalent. Because again, crack. We saw at the end of last season just how hard crack had started hitting, but now we're about to get into the area of just how widespread crack became and how it dabbled into the entertainment business. Because now we get the rappers and stuff in this era with coke and crack, but we also get the era of another show that's on another completely different network that's kind of in this same time period. So I mean, it's going to be very interesting the way they play out this period of the 80s, because how prevalent and important this period of the 80s is to the drug trade.
Yeah, 80s was a wild time, man.
Hey, look, it was. hey, look, I was young in the 80s, so I didn't have to. I grew up in the 90s where that shit was nuts. I didn't have to grow up in the 80s when like niggas was just doing bumps for free. Like, like how the hell you go to a party and they like, oh, so you're just gonna take our cocaine? Like, how would that even be an option? You can't even take a J from somebody in the 90s without them trying to blast your head off. But you just taking cocaine all freely.
Yeah, and that's important that you bring that up, because that was the next thing I want to bring up. Is like, yeah, we're seeing all sorts of chaos all over being affected by the product and how it's being moved now. Desperation, people's money's not adding up and whatnot, but obviously you're getting incidents that are now all being considered high profile.
Yeah,
to the point that authorities said, oh, we got to do something. So like the limb bias thing was very big, but also they made this, and which is like Leon said, this is a white boy that was shot, drugs is in it, and it's a big thing. Everybody's going crazy off of this. You know what I mean?
And it's back to back. I love the way they did that. It's following right after limb bias, and all of a sudden you have a party where drugs are involved and a white kid gets shot. And we know, as Black people in America, nothing happens until white people start dying. So the moment this white boy died, it's a problem. It's a problem everywhere.
Time to do something now.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. So it was white boy Rob's party, and you know that's Franklin's man since the sandbox. But I mean, look, I thought it was really important that they brought in Wanda, who we was kind of running what she's up to. Now she's
nice and clean. She got new teeth.
Yeah,
like I didn't even know you could recover. I didn't even know your teeth could recover from crack. This is amazing, Jeff. She got and now she's selling sex. Hey, dude, I know I'm old or older. Like I remember the 1-900 numbers that they used to.
Those used to be wild, bro.
The point that you got people calling in to feel good at the end of the night. That is nuts here, pause. But like the point that they do this with Wanda and that this is her avenue to make money, but not only that, but we're seeing that Franklin is helping taking care of Wanda, which is a really interesting thing because Leon asked him to. So it's almost like a gap of time is missing from the last season where them two were at each other's throats to the point that he does this for him.
Yeah, I think it's I think it has to be the reason why Leon's still in the game. He did him a solid, and he said, "Fine, I'm still in." That's why we kind of see Leon kind of disinterested in selling. He still wants to hold his block, but he just doesn't seem like he's really like he's fully committed before. He's not moving the same way he did. But it's one episode; it's hard to tell, but we'll see. But he definitely looked like he was a little bit off. But he definitely
looked off when he was beating the shit out that dude's feet for stealing from him.
I mean, and I think he still wants that OG feeling, that OG presence of saying, like, this is still my block. He'd rather drugs are moving or not. You know what I mean? So he was, you know, I felt like that might have been the most excitement he had in a while. He's like, yeah, he can keep the shoes.
hey, and shout out to all you fake sneakerheads out there who didn't understand mids, while you hate them now, are technically the shoe that was released in the 80s. And the point that he had on some bread mids in the 80s, Jesus Christ, man, I wish.
Yeah, I
wouldn't wear them now, but back then, man.
His homeboy had the Royal Ones on. Them Jones was dogged. I peeped, but we'll let that slide though. I'll definitely peep. Oh man. So, but yeah, in terms of White Boy Rob, you know, it was his homeboy that shot the other dude, and you know, Franklin's first reaction is like, well, how much does he know? And they like, we got to go handle this. And they go out there to kind of alpha dog this dude and say, look, we're going to go snatch him up or whatever's going to be. And we're going to bury him in the mountains and whatnot. But which was really cool. And I don't know if I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but I really liked how the sequence of we seen Franklin in more ways than enough look at White Boy Rob and determine that he's a liability. Yeah. And it was a whole mentality of like, I really do fuck with him, that's my boy, but I also can't have this around. And it wasn't just important because his girl told him, but I also think it's OG Franklin philosophy to know you can't have these type of people around. And you can't feel sympathetic just because that's your boy since the sandbox. You can't feel sympathetic because, well, he reminds you of Wanda being strung out and whatnot. Yeah. All these little things that could probably trigger him and saying like, man, I could probably turn him around. Yeah, you did turn Wanda around. Yeah, you're right. But
Wanda wasn't integral in your business.
Yeah.
So first things first, if you are in the drug business and you decide that you want to take up an addiction to the product that you are selling and you have a higher up, man, you got to go.
Yeah,
you became the biggest liability because at that point, what you see and you see it happen here with Rob is that he's willing to do anything for a hit. You think he wouldn't give up all the information humanly possible on Franklin for a hit?
Yeah,
like at that point, I have to kill you. I think it was the final straw was him freebasing, which is nuts, smoking a pipe right before they bury him, and I think Franklin noticed that like, yeah, this is it. Like, there's nothing I can do.
I was surprised that he let him get the gun and sit behind him. Behind him, that had me paranoid. I was like, you know, and he I mean, and that's why like you kind of see Franklin kind of like the willingness to want to trust him, but really face the reality. You know, saying that one, he almost couldn't even get the job done. He almost let this dude live. Like he missed him twice. Either way, he shot him in the shoulder, so that's 3 misses. And then, in terms of execution, he was trying to give it up right now.
Hey, no, you can't say Tariq. Tariq.
Oh yeah,
who's that? Even though Tariq's shots look like they should have went everywhere but the person, they were all perfect shots. But so here he's just missing. He's nervous. He's high. He doesn't want to do it in the first place. Again, all of it shows is that you're a liability.
Yeah.
And at times you have to, in that game, I had to correct myself real quick. In that game, you have to give the opportunity for someone to prove you right at times. Yeah. And that's all Franklin was doing. I need you to prove me right because we're so close. it's something I don't want to do. Not only do I not want to do it because you're my boy, I don't want to do it because it hurts business. Louis pointed it out perfectly. If Rob goes away, that's a big piece of the business that goes away with him. And what are we going to do about getting this Coke at a better price?
Yeah. Also, I mean, to that point too, Louis is right, but she's also not aware of how big of a liability he is, but also not just that. Even if he was around and he did get it together, it's still a liability because it's super hot. It's hot.
A murder was committed in the house with you in it by your boy. Exactly.
And he said the Fed, that was the first strike when he said, hey, the Feds are looming around and y'all just still, you got your friends, this all, to be honest, they're still just marinating where the murder happened as if nothing happened. Red flags all over the place.
Cutting up lines while they're still there.
Hey, they wild.
If nothing says addict, like, I know you just died here, but let me get this bump off right quick. Before the cops get here. Like, it was that's good. I'd have killed everybody right then and there. We would not I don't need to know where Thad is. Just let me know where he is, and I'm gonna kill all of y'all. Even though I think that was the goal of Franklin, is like, okay, I can't harm anyone else here because I need him to bring me to the biggest liability. Because the moment he said to Franklin, hey, maybe your CIA friend could, I wouldn't have waited for Rob. I'd have shot him in his head right then and there.
Yeah.
Because you clearly know way too much information.
Absolutely. I thought one other thing that was funny was Peaches was kind of looking like, oh, when he got shot. To the point I was like, Peaches, I'm pretty sure you've known about, as it said, about an hour or two ago, this should have been done.
I think Peaches knew it, but I don't think Peaches thought Franklin would kill Rob under any circumstance.
Yeah.
Because again, he laid out the plan. He said, once we get everything handled, I'll get Rob in rehab and then he's out the game. So I think it caught Peaches off guard because this is out of Franklin's character. This is not something Franklin does.
Yeah, well, yeah. And it depends, because last season, Franklin, I see yes. Previous seasons before that, this is definitely
he never hurt friends. And then at the first 3 seasons, he was skittish about killing anybody.
True.
So here is one of his best, if not his best friend outside of Leon. Like, and he put a bullet in his head because he knew he had to. Yeah. That's what I think Peaches was shocked. Like, so we knew. So this is a new game. Okay. So we just killing niggas with no problem now. All right. It's amazing what happens when babies get involved, right?
Yeah, that's right. Glad you bring that up. One other thing before we talk about the baby is that you bring up Louis. Well, we got this little interesting thing happening with Louis at the bar here. Louis gonna have to give somebody up in order to keep that cop protection because everybody has a boss. And he says, look, they're hot on me. I need you to give me somebody up. I ain't saying snitching, but I need you to give me somebody to take off the ease off of me so I can continue to work for you. Yeah, I don't know if I got any predictions or anything right now. I mean, I've heard this story plenty of times. I mean, it's the same old thing with cops.
Yep. But what you're not gonna do though is threaten me in my club, then me give you a hooker, and then you take a bump of cocaine.
Yeah,
my nigga, you would be all on video camera at that point. Even in the 80s, nigga, I don't give a fuck if I got somebody up top with a camcorder. We are taping you to do all this shit. Yeah. I'm just not leaving myself that wide open. But again, this shows relationship building, that Louis has a cop technically on her payroll for protection. That's important.
Yeah.
And then who do you have to give up? That's going to be a great play for the rest of the season of who you have to give up.
I have to see. We're going to keep this review short because, like I said, 2 episodes tonight. But the last thing we will talk about is, again, Veronique, who is Franklin's new boo, baby mom, a baby on the way. She is, when we talk about this character, she's confident. She's contributing to the end game. She's in real estate. She also has a law degree. And she's aware of what Franklin's up to, but she's also giving him an ultimatum of saying, listen, you have to do everything for this kid. No half and half, no 50%. You know, when we have this baby, everything changes. And have to support this kid in every way. And that's essentially saying you need to get out the game because you got a kid on the way. And we're going to get into this real estate thing. So he has now another ultimatum in his life of making him get a game. Much like I said, much like the plan of what his mom was at one point pitching, or where they were collectively pitching, should I say? But
it's going to bring a very interesting storyline for the rest of this season, and something that I don't know how many people watch Snowfall have ever really thought of. What makes you think it is Franklin's? I want to say opinions, not opinion though. Choice to get out the game. You work for the U.S. government. It's not your choice to do anything at this point in time. So again, it sets up a very interesting story for the rest of the season of him wanting to get out the game, but there's no way they're going to let him out.
Yeah.
They will use you until you're no longer profitable, and then they'll put you in jail. Because in the end, they know all your wealth comes from drug money. You did it for them. If you don't think they would, again, it's just going to be a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
Because this is a woman who wants him to do better, just like his mom. And Franklin is going to be put in a position where, do I just lie to her and tell her I'm out the game?
Yeah. Well, like she said, listen, you can get fast alone, you can get far together, or you can get fast and far with me. Whoops. It seems like he heard everything he needs to do. So he has some real contemplations right now in terms of, do you do it yourself? Do you do it with your family? Are you with me?
Just like a woman, just step between you and your family by saying, oh, no, you can do both with me, but not with them.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, folks, let us know about your thoughts about episode 1. And then immediately jump over to our review for episode 2. So we'll see you there in a moment. And for the rest of the season, we'll see you each and every week after the conclusion of Snowfall for your official recap. Thank you for watching. Big gold bell.